Today is the day that the PPP releases, and this thing is going to go just like that if it hasn't already. But here's the thing. I've gotten inundated with phone calls and questions today, and I just wanted to touch on a couple of things that I think are still unclear. First of all, the only thing you really need to complete the Payroll Protection Program application is a Schedule C. Now, this is you being a self-employed or independent salon, that you're essentially just a sole proprietor and you rent out stations, or you might even have a few employees, but you're small, so you don't have enough to really hire a big-time CPA to do this for you. So what you're going to need is your Schedule C. This is for if you are self-employed. So if you're self-employed, you're going to have a Schedule C. Now, if you already have your taxes completed, whether they're filed or not doesn't matter. If you have that already done for 2019, this is in your tax packet. So maybe call your CPA, dig through it. You can go online. I'll include a link that'll show you what it looks like, but you just need to find that. Because the critical piece to this is going to be what you end up with on line number 31. Line number 31 is what you're going to use to then go online and fill out an application for the Payroll Protection Program. The line 31 is giving you, as a self-employed person, what your annual payroll costs are. Because that's what this whole loan is based on, is what are your payroll costs. Specifically, it's going to ask you what are your payroll costs for 12 months, or it might ask you what are your payroll costs for 1 month, or it's going to take all of that and then it's generally going to do the math for you. But if not, the whole PPP loan is based around you getting 2.5 times your normal monthly payroll. So your normal monthly payroll is what you live on every month after you've received all your money, paid all your expenses, and then what's left, this is the money that we're talking about. So go after this PPP because it can help you. I wanted to clear up a couple of things. One, where should you go for it? So here's the thing. If you have a business checking account at a bank, and particularly if it's a local bank or a smaller bank, go there first if they're taking loans. If they're taking applications. If not, and in addition to, because there used to be, there was a little bit there when they were saying don't apply for multiple opportunities because it's going to trigger some sort of a fraud alert. That has since changed. So now you can apply, and I would recommend you do so. I'm actually sending people, as much as possible, I'm recommending that you go to brokers like Cabbage.com, Lendio, QuickBooks is even taking applications, PayPal is taking applications. So there's a few of these, they're not really a bank, but they're basically kind of being they have a lending history, they're getting approved by the SBA to offer this as a program, and they're able to shop multiple banks for you. So if you're a small guy, it's a really good resource. So your own bank, and get it in as many of these other little places as you can. The application, the online application, is almost the same for everyone. I've seen about 4 or 5 different ones, and they basically have the same format. They're going to ask you all the regular questions, and half the questions are what the SBA just needs to know. And then they're going to get your basic contact information, your basic work information, and then they're going to ask you a couple of critical questions. And this is where it gets a little confusing when you're a self-employed person. So they're going to say, how many employees do you have? And if it's just you, then you have 1 employee. But you do want to say, I have 1 employee. You don't have 0 employees. You are the employee. You are the self-employed person. Now, if you, then it's going to ask you, what was your annual payroll for 2019? Annual payroll for 2019 is where you're going to get that Schedule C and look up line 31. That's your annual payroll. It might ask you, what's your monthly payroll cost? And the monthly payroll cost is just going to be your annual divided by 12, gives you your monthly. Ultimately, what you're going to be eligible for will be 2.5 times what your monthly is. So here's how this works. You could, in theory, have applied, well, tomorrow the unemployment benefits for self-employed people opens up. So you might have had some combination of wages, which means maybe you're self-employed part of the time and you also get W-2. But if you had a scenario where you were able to apply and get unemployment, I know that applying is not the same thing as getting these days, but if you were able to apply and get it, then you can still have been collecting that unemployment up until the point that your PPP kicks in. Then you have 8 weeks to use and track and document, and I'll do a separate video on how you're going to do that. But essentially, you just need to keep track of the fact that you paid yourself, your payroll, for an 8-week period of time once you get funded. Then if things are, if shit's still hitting the fan and you need to continue something else, you can continue with more of the unemployment afterwards. So I'm going to do a separate video on the unemployment piece because tomorrow that opens up and it's a whole nother ball of wax. But at this point, the challenge that we're up against is that we typically do our best to get line 31 as low as possible, which means we're coming up with all kinds of crazy expenses so that we can just pay as little tax as possible. Or the other, beauty industry technique, I guess you're going to call it, is cash, not claiming income. So we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot by not claiming all of our revenue, trumping up our expenses, skating below the wire, and now it's a struggle. So if you need to take advantage of every possible opportunity, then do it. And this could be anywhere from this PPP, you might get $2,000, but you could get $10,000. So it just depends on how much you work, how much you charge, what your monthly revenue is, to determine whether this is going to be a significant piece of money. But here's the thing, it's absolutely worth taking a couple of hours to get it done and try and fill some of that gap. If I think of anything else, I will definitely loop back. But those so far were the questions that have come up just today. And I just want everyone who is even considering it to go for it. Don't worry about the unemployment piece. That's going to happen tomorrow. You can't overlap the PPP with unemployment, but you can certainly use them in succession. And the unemployment goes all the way back to when you first couldn't work anymore. So it's almost 7 weeks now, about, depending on when you stop working. Okay. Just take care of yourself. Okay. This is for us. This is the first time in a really, really long time that there has been any kind of opportunity for people who are self-employed. So this is specifically my passion is, finance and bookkeeping and accounting and strategy and cash flow, and, hair salons, spas, that's, and I know that we're in pain right now. I know that we're in pain and I want to help. So, okay. Bye.